However, their return to the franchise on the last resort has exposed cracks in their foundation, leading me to believe that Julia may have fallen out of love with Brandon. The lingering shadow of infidelity. A lack of genuine remorse? Julia's revelation of her past infidelity has cast a long shadow over their relationship. While she claims that the burden of her secret caused her emotional distress, her demeanor and subsequent actions suggest a lack of genuine remorse for the hurt she inflicted on Brandon. Her admission of kissing and dating a former boyfriend during their long-distance phase raises serious questions about her commitment from the outset. While the weight of a 5-year secret is undeniable, the focus of her confession seems to be more on alleviating her own guilt than on acknowledging Brandon's pain. A truly remorseful partner would prioritize expressing love and reassurance to the betrayed partner. Instead, Julia's emphasis on her own emotional turmoil and the discomfort of keeping the secret suggests a self-centered approach. The fact that she only chose to disclose this information in front of other cast members, rather than privately and vulnerably with Brandon, further underscores this point. It raises the suspicion that her primary motivation was not to seek forgiveness, but to unburden herself, regardless of the consequences for Brandon. If her regret were genuine, her actions would reflect a deep empathy for Brandon's feelings, which seems conspicuously absent. The undercurrent of dissatisfaction, a pattern of disregard? Beyond the infidelity, Julia's behavior reveals a persistent dissatisfaction with Brandon and his efforts to build a life with her. She appears to minimize his sacrifices, including leaving his family farm, and seemingly disregards his unwavering support through her deportation scare and career transitions. This lack of acknowledgement for his significant gestures speaks volumes about her perspective on their relationship. It suggests a possible entitlement, where she feels his efforts are not only expected, but also insufficient. Furthermore, her reluctance to have children with Brandon raises serious concerns about her long-term vision for their future. While differing views on family planning are certainly valid, her stance seems to reflect a deeper disconnect. It could indicate a lack of trust in Brandon as a father, or more worryingly, a lack of desire to build a future with him at all. This reluctance, coupled with her apparent disregard for his sacrifices, paints a picture of a partner who is not fully invested in the relationship. The allure of the past. A lingering comparison? The resurfacing of photos of Julia with her muscular ex-boyfriend has fueled speculation about her preferences and desires. While physical attraction is undoubtedly a component of any romantic relationship, the intense focus on Brandon's perceived shortcomings in comparison to her ex suggests a deeper dissatisfaction. The online commentary, with some even claiming Julia downgraded, highlights the perceived disparity in their physical appearances. While such comments should be taken with a grain of salt, they do reflect a broader perception of Julia's potential lingering attraction to a different type. It's possible that Julia initially found Brandon's personality and the opportunity to live in the United States appealing. However, now that she has established her own life and career in America, the initial allure may have faded, leaving her feeling unfulfilled. The comparison to her ex-boyfriend, whether conscious or subconscious, could be a manifestation of this dissatisfaction. It's not necessarily about physical appearance alone, but perhaps a representation of a different lifestyle, a different dynamic, or a different version of herself that she now longs for. The disconnect. A lack of shared enthusiasm? Perhaps the most telling sign of Julia's potential disaffection is her apparent disinterest in spending time with Brandon. A healthy relationship thrives on shared experiences, mutual affection, and a genuine desire to be together. If Julia is consistently disengaged, distant, or even dismissive of Brandon, it suggests a significant disconnect. This lack of shared enthusiasm can erode the foundation of any relationship, leaving one or both partners feeling neglected and unloved. The crossroads. Time for honest reflection. Julia and Brandon's journey on the last resort presents a critical juncture in their relationship. The issues that have surfaced, the infidelity, the lack of remorse, the dissatisfaction, and the apparent disconnect, are significant and require honest and open communication. Whether they can overcome these challenges Trubkina's actions in 90 Day, the last resort lead me to believe that she has fallen out of love with her husband, Brandon Gibbs. She and her American partner first met through a mutual friend before the COVID-19 pandemic. They fell in love with each other's personalities and started a relationship shortly after, leading to their appearance in 90 Day Fiancé Season 8. Initially, I enjoyed watching Brandon and Julia's story, as they seemed like genuine cast members with relatable issues. However, it wasn't long before Julia disappointed me by pushing Brandon to move out of his home. While Brandon and Julia took a break from appearing on the small screen, I stayed updated on their journey through social media. I watched as they faced challenges and grew stronger as a couple. I was especially impressed by Julia's efforts to reconcile with her in-laws and become a good daughter-in-law to them. Therefore, I was truly surprised when I learned that Brandon and Julia were participating in 90 Day, the Last Resort Season 2. I had no idea that they were still struggling with significant relationship issues that had drastically altered their dynamic. Julia isn't genuinely remorseful for her actions. All Julia wanted was to rid herself of the burden of guilt. Julia's recent actions and revelations have convinced me that she's no longer in love with Brandon. In a recent episode of the 90 Day Fiancé spin-off, she discussed her cheating scandal without showing a lot of remorse. She admitted to Brandon that she wasn't sure about their long-distance relationship in the beginning, so she had started dating and kissing her former boyfriend. Julia explained that she only opened up about her past infidelity in front of other cast members because it weighed heavily on her and caused her emotional distress. I believe Julia was being honest when she said that keeping such a big secret from Brandon hurt her. However, I also think that her pain wasn't necessarily from cheating on Brandon, but from feeling guilty over the past 5 years. If Julia truly regretted her actions, she would have tried to express her love for Brandon. Instead, she chose to focus on her own feelings, showing a lack of concern for Brandon's emotions. Her response implies her guilt stemmed from being more involved with her ex than she had admitted. Julia is still dissatisfied with Brandon's behavior. Julia doesn't want to have a baby with Brandon. Julia's recent behavior leads me to believe that she isn't grateful for what Brandon has done for her. She diminishes the fact that he left his family farm for her and minimizes his sacrifices. Julia has also never acknowledged that he supported her through her deportation scare and all her new career moves. The fact that Julia doesn't want to have a child with Brandon makes me think that she has no respect for him. It seems like she only cares about herself and her feelings without considering what Brandon wants. Julia doesn't see Brandon as her ideal type. Julia appears disinterested in spending time with Brandon. Recently, an Instagram account at 90dayfiance.news.and.memes shared photos of Julia with her muscular ex-boyfriend. Many fans commented on the post, saying that Julia had downgraded herself by marrying Brandon, who doesn't look as good as her ex. A user commented, "Guys, it was just a kiss, but we believed it." Someone else wrote, "Brandon needs to leave her, you can tell she is not into him." I believe fans are right that Brandon isn't Julia's type. The Russian reality star is more into bulky and attractive men like her ex than someone with an average build like Brandon. I believe that Julia doesn't consider Brandon to be her ideal type. She likely dated Brandon for his sweet personality at the time and was probably excited about the opportunity to live in the United States. Now that Julia has established her own business in America, she no longer finds the same joy in being with Brandon. It appears like she's simply not interested in her husband anymore. I believe the 90 Day, the Last Resort cast member should consider leaving Brandon and finding someone who shares her youthful energy. The Crumbling Facade. Decoding Julia Trubkina's apparent disaffection in 90 Day, the Last Resort. Julia Trubkina's journey on 90 Day, the Last Resort has painted a troubling picture of her relationship with Brandon Gibbs, leaving many viewers, including myself, questioning the depth of her love and commitment. Their story, which initially captivated audiences with its relatable struggles and genuine connection, has taken a decidedly different turn, revealing a chasm of unresolved issues and potentially a fundamental shift in Julia's feelings. From their initial meeting through a mutual friend before the pandemic, their whirlwind romance, and their appearance on 90 Day Fiancé Season 8, Brandon and Julia's narrative was one of navigating cultural differences and family dynamics.